The company that myself and Clark Thompson, our CTO, founded in 2006 is Enchanted Rock. We'd like to think that we've brought some innovation to the resiliency, electrical resiliency space over those years. Started off with diesel and shifted to natural gas. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that. In addition, give you some experiences that we had during Hurricane Harvey. Currently, we believe we're the leader in microgrids as a service. What we do is we have investors that we set up project companies and have investors that own the assets, the microgrid assets, and provide a service to our customers where they can either pay a fee up front or pay a fee over time. The actual installation cost of a natural gas microgrid is significantly greater than a traditional diesel, but there's much higher merchant value. So what we do, we have two customers today. One customer is a local resiliency customer like an HED. The other customer is the grid operator, in this case, ERCOT, the Texas grid operator. And we basically turn on, when there's different types of grid events, for example, over the weekend, we had an event where the wind came in much higher than normal, and then it dropped way below normal, or not normal, it came in much higher than forecast, and then dropped way below forecast when the load was coming in. It was a colder weekend than expected. The load was coming in colder, and so that net change meant that the grid couldn't provide for about the 30 to 45 minute period of time at normal pricing. So we saw a nice spike in prices we turn on and provide during that period. So we're kind of a buffer. We provide a buffer to the intermittent nature of the wind generation in Texas, and so that because of that, we generate revenues from that. We can actually bring our cost to the customer way below that traditional diesel.
So you're essentially offsetting the capital cost of the diesel or the gas other revenues.
Yes. Yes, we have several revenue streams that we receive from the electric grid that then we have the ability to capture that, to monetize those different revenue streams, and that then brings the price to the customer down to much lower they could ever achieve on their own.
Like pretty much any technology that we pick, like the capital side, the hardware, we are seeing cost reduction over time. Do you see that coming to gas-based EG where maybe things are becoming much more attractive from a capital point of view?
So I don't know if it's an industry standard. I think that the way we look at it, we've brought kind of an approach that brings the cost down from the standpoint of everything we do is scale, and that matters upstream to our supply chain. So kind of the model previously with backup generation, everything was one-off. You had a lot of different types of generation. You never could achieve scale. Our model is standardized. We have a modular unit. Whether it's switchgear, whether it's generation, again, we're giving our supply chain a lot of certainty, and we're being very smart in the design, which allows us to bring the cost down. Likewise, when we build the systems, we have standardized processes and procedures. So we are, as a company, bringing the cost down. That allows us to, again, bring the cost down to the customer. I don't know if that's necessarily an industry trend, but again, we believe in this microgrid own-operate solution. You do have opportunities for cost reduction. And again, the components involved, again, you get the benefit of that through volume certainty over a long period of time. First, you have to be able to buy the diesel, and then you have to be able to pay the price. But yes, there's typically would be some type of widening differential between diesel prices and natural gas. On the other hand, in that case, natural gas is still plentiful. In fact, because of the storm, a lot of the C&I demand has gone down, so there's even a surplus. So what we saw was an inverse correlation between the supply of natural gas and the supply of diesel. In many cases, we saw, we monitor natural gas pressure at every single one of our sites on a continuous basis. And in many cases, because of the declining commercial industrial load, we saw increasing pressure. So there was actually more supply of natural gas and less supply of diesel. Therefore, it would have widened the price differential. People talk about solar plus storage as a microgrid, and we actually disagree with that. I think that's a component of a microgrid, but especially a microgrid where you're providing electrical resiliency, you need to be able to run for long periods of time. You still need some type of fuel supply. During Harvey, we really didn't see the sun for 5 days, and so if you had solar plus storage, you would have probably lasted maybe half a day, and that's it. And so we think it's important to have that supply, and we made the strategic choice to go with natural gas. I think it's important to have that supply available over long periods of time, days, weeks, a month, even after a major weather event, and a battery can't do that. With that said, we think a battery has a very, very useful function in a microgrid, especially when you're looking to provide premium power. We're working on a deal right now. It's a combination of power quality and resiliency. This facility out in the Permian Basin, because of the production rates have gone up so dramatically in a short period of time, there's a lot of issues on the electric grid with power quality and maintaining satisfactory voltage. And so look at voltage dips, and it'll shut the facility. It's a natural gas processing facility. It'll shut that facility offline because the voltage dip is too severe. In that case, we're looking at a combination of battery storage through a line interactive UPS combined with our generation, where we can actually right-size both and again maintain very, very stable voltage for short periods of time. And we can't hold up that feeder, and we isolate from the feeder and transfer right through on the storage and transfer to the generation.
So I guess these are applications where there's a big shock rise in terms of the power load,
right?
Gas-based generator power, output, or maybe
we're off, right? So we're offline at that point in time. If we were online, we could manage it, but we're offline because we're there as backup. And so the battery piece of it helps manage the power quality. And if a lot of those power quality events are relatively short, and we ride through that and don't go to generation if it's a short period of time. If it's a longer period of time, we'll isolate from the grid and then transfer everything to the natural gas microgrid, all the load of that facility to the natural gas microgrid. So we think, in general, that the batteries have a very, very valuable use within a microgrid as far as power quality, right-sizing equipment. There's different things you can do as you add solar to this natural gas microgrid, and how to manage the solar with the generation using the storage. So there's a lot of valuable ways to combine these different assets. We don't really view batteries as competitive because, again, it can't provide long-term resiliency. We view it as complementary.
When you think about the market for gas-based distributed generation, right, is it limited to these niche but critical applications, or do you see, I guess, how do you look at the universe of applications for gas-based?
No, we don't really view this as a niche. We think it's a relatively large-scale opportunity, and we're finding that more and more every day. And when you get the pricing down to kind of that $100 to $200 a kilowatt, in some cases less than that, we have certain advantages. We can buy natural gas at a much lower price than we're currently buying it behind an LDC. Then actually we can bring the price down lower than that. So we think that really it's a pricing function. Most of our customers would not have gone out and bought and operated backup generation at traditional prices. So we're actually creating a new market for electrical resiliency that didn't currently exist. We think that market is several orders of magnitude larger than what was there before, which was hospitals for critical life safety, data centers, etc. So what we're doing is we're expanding that market. We think it's, again, a very, very large market. And the other half of that, again, we're providing a quick response asset back to the grid operators. It doesn't matter if it's Texas or in New York or California. There's a growing demand for quick response, local contingency type capacity as the intermittency of the grid increases. So we view this as a relatively large transitional opportunity as demand for resiliency grows significantly, especially at the price points that we offer. Number one. Number two, as demand for quick response assets grows, we continue down the path of decarbonization of the electric grid. And again, we're retiring coal plants and replacing that with intermittent resources and natural gas quick response. What we found, and this was definitely not industry convention, but we did a lot of analysis and looked at many different places in Texas and around the country. And what we found is after a major weather event, it could be a hurricane, could be an ice storm, the diesel supply chain is very, very challenged. In many cases, it's difficult to procure the commodity, and it's very, very hard, even if you have it in the tanker, to get it to the specific site that you need. We installed our first natural gas microgrid down in Bay City at an HEB in December of 2016. By the time Harvey hit, we had 18 natural gas microgrids installed in 18 HEBs and 3 Buc-ees, and there was one other facility. HEB called us before the storm, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, and they were starting to get indications this would be a very major flooding event, and they were exactly right. They're concerned at a lot of their older stores, even if they lose power for 10 seconds, they have to go through a restart on the chillers. And they said, look, normally that's not a problem, but if I can't restart a chiller and I can't dispatch a technician because of flooding, I've got issues. I'm going to lose product. So they said, do you guys mind if we preemptively island these stores, take them off the grid to prevent even a momentary loss of power? We basically pick up the store's load in less than 10 seconds. Again, they were trying to avoid that transition. So we basically transferred from the utility to our microgrids and disconnected from the utility on 18 of the stores, the HEB stores, and 3 of the Buc-ees.